Hey everyone, the Jets hired a new head coach, a new general manager. They just had the introductory press conferences today. On our regular episodes, Fanatics and Analytics, New York and Philly, the Eagles are making a run to the Super Bowl. They're in the Super Bowl, so that's taking up the majority of our time and the vast majority of our episodes. So just wanted to do a recap, just touch base on what's going on with the Jets and what's going on with the Knicks, and what's going on with the pod in general. So, since Dad's riding high, he has the Eagles in the Super Bowl. We're going to be putting out an episode recapping the NFC Championship game. Then we're going to be putting out an episode next week previewing the Super Bowl, of course, from the Eagles' perspective. So, as they look to get revenge after losing to the Chiefs 2 years ago. So, wanted to talk about the Jets. So, the Jets hired a head coach. I haven't talked about it. Sistad and I haven't talked about it. So, the Jets have a new head coach, Aaron Glenn. They have a new general manager, Darren Mougey. Wanted to give my thoughts on this. So, a couple things. I'm having trouble as a Jets fan getting past this negativity. There's so much negativity with the Jets. And it's causing me to have a bias in my assessment, in my evaluation of the new GM and the new coach. Because I just don't trust anything that Woody Johnson or this franchise does. And I think there's a lot of precedent to support that lack of trust. Aaron Glenn, I remember him as a Jets corner, a very good player, a really good player. And he's worked his way up. He talked in his press conference today about how he decided he was watching football on TV and like yelling at the TV, and his wife said, "You should go into coaching." So he goes and calls Bill Parcells. Tells him I want to get into coaching. Parcells says, "You should start as a scout. This is what you're going to do." So he works his way up as a scout, defensive backs coach, secondary coach, defensive coordinator the last 4 years with the Detroit Lions. A very successful 4-year tenure with the Detroit Lions. So a guy who, in the press conference you saw it, comes off as a motivator, someone who can relate to the players, someone is genuine in his excitement for football, and someone who seems like he's going to hold players accountable. That's great. And I have no idea how Aaron Glenn's going to be as a head coach, but I can tell you this, that given what we've seen with this franchise, the issue probably won't be Aaron Glenn. In fact, there's a narrative out there that the Jets have done a bad job of hiring coaches. I completely reject that narrative. The Jets have brought in some good coaches. They may not have had success with the Jets, but they've had success elsewhere. Todd Bowles comes to mind. He's the first one that comes to mind, but they've hired good coaches. I mean, going back to Herm Edwards, good coach. Rex Ryan had success with the Jets. I wouldn't call him a bad coach. I don't even necessarily think Mangini was a bad coach. I think the only one that was clearly bad was Adam Gase. But Robert Saleh, I think that's more of the Jets being the Jets than it is Robert Saleh. And I wouldn't be surprised. He's going back to the Niners. He's going to be a DC. I wouldn't be surprised if Robert Saleh finds some success as a head coach one day in the future. Because I think there's something there, and I think it's more of the Jets issue than it was Robert Saleh. Now, hopefully Aaron Glenn will be such a great coach, such a great personality, and such a great leader that he will be able to overcome the challenges that the Woody Johnson-led Jets franchise provides or gives to a coach, to a organization, to the team culture. Hopefully he can overcome it and create a really, really strong culture. My reservations aren't about Aaron Glenn as much as they are about the Jets, Woody Johnson, the franchise. Because I really do believe that the issues they've been much bigger than the head coach. Okay, before I get into the GM, I do find something to be I think it's more socially interesting, observing what society does and how we act, and how I always talk about how sports is such a strong indication of what society is. It takes what society is and then exaggerates it. As a society, people are very result driven. In my opinion, way too much. Way too much. I think it should be more about process oriented than it should be about results, especially in making decisions for the future. You should still be, especially in sports, react happily or negatively emotion wise based on those results, because that's what you're going for, but you shouldn't make decisions based on those results, especially not short-term results, but even long-term results. I think it's more about the process. You have to really dive into the results and try to understand why these are the results. Are these really indicative of what's happening, or what are the factors that created this result? Instead of just saying the result's bad, well, the result's good, let's do this. And what I'm getting to is, I find it interesting, and I think wrong to do this. And I'm not talking about Mougey and Glenn specifically. So let me just say that. I'm not talking about them specifically. But the concept of, oh, the Lions have been a really good team. They were a bad franchise for a long time. Now they turned it around. They become a stable, really good organization. Let's go take their defensive coordinator and make him our head coach. Or it's a little bit different in Mougey's situation, but you take, this guy has been in a well-run, for the most part, well-run Broncos organization for the last 12 years. They've had some very good years, recently some bad years, but they've had a lot of good years during that stretch where he was in part of the front office, whether as a scout, as an assistant GM. Let's pluck him. He has experience with Sean Payton. He has experience with John Elway. He has experience with Peyton Manning. Let's pluck him. I think in these decisions, this process, this interviewing, it should be about understanding their thought process, understanding their process of how they go about their business, whether it's a GM, how he'll work with the scouts, how he'll work with everyone in the front office, how he'll work with the head coach and the coaching staff and the players, how he'll communicate to the owner, all of that, how he'll address the media, and what assets, what attributes are important to him? What does he value? What does he look for in players? What does he look for in roster building? What is his goal? And I just do not trust that Woody Johnson's led Jets interview process, whatever you want to call it, is going to, or did that. I just don't trust that. I believe that they look at this guy's been on this successful organization. I like that. This guy gives us a rah-rah speech. I like that. And we heard from this guy who I like, who's a really good coach, who had a good career in the NFL. He said great things about him. Let's hire him. Like Adam Gase, Peyton Manning recommendation. All right, that's the whole long story. Who knows how impactful that was in the decision. But Peyton Manning, Hall of Fame quarterback, maybe one of the best players ever, said Adam Gase is a great coach. Let's hire him. Even if it's not the only decision why they hired him, that shouldn't impact the decision. Just because someone says something about someone doesn't make it true. Doesn't matter how great of a player, coach, owner, GM, that person that said it was. It doesn't matter. They have a perspective about that person. That doesn't mean that they know that what he'll be in this different role. It doesn't even mean that everyone shares that same perspective of that person. This has to be process driven. And I just don't trust the fact that Woody Johnson and the Jets brass even understand what a good process is. I don't know. That seems off to me. All right, now let's go to Darren Mougey. I don't love that the Jets hired a head coach and then hired a GM. I've been saying all along, I want the GM in place. I want the GM to decide who the head coach is. I don't like how they've been hired separately. They're both reporting to Woody Johnson. And if things go bad, then there's he said that, he said this. There's a clash. Are they going to be on the same page? At the press conference, they're acting like they are. Mougey saying how when he was with the Broncos, they interviewed Aaron Glenn, calls him AG, and he was blown away. Well, they didn't hire him. I get it. Mougey's wasn't the decision maker, but that kind of also points to the question of how do you know he's going to be a good GM? What's his process? You can't just look at it and say, the Broncos had a good organization. They've had a good amount of success over the last 12 years, so he knows what he's doing. I don't like the way they did this. I think it's and it's being lost. I think people aren't talking as much. I think it's being lost. It's a bad way to go about this. It creates organizational chaos. It creates the potential for him versus him, me versus you, instead of us. That's not good. Oh, and the other thing is, I have no idea if Mougie's going to be a good general manager. I don't know. I don't know if Aaron Glenn's going to be good. Aaron Glenn's going to be a good head coach. I don't know if they're going to be good with the Jets specifically. The thing I always so I come across this a lot too, where you have people saying that they talk about Mougie's 12 years with the Broncos, how he went from area scout and all the way up to assistant general manager, and they talk about Mougey, and they're like, yeah, he's great. He's gonna be a GM. Or Aaron Glenn, based on his personality and how he was a good defensive coordinator, a great defensive player, and he can relate to players, he's gonna be a great head coach. Yeah, so I don't know. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that I don't know. I think there's something wrong with people, and I have a lot of Jets fans, friends, who are talking about this as if like, yeah, yes, Aaron Glenn's a great coach. It's a great hire. You have and then you have all the media personalities that they feel like they have to give a strong opinion. Oh, it's a great hire. How do you know? How can anyone say with conviction that Aaron Glenn and Darren Mougey are going to be great for their new roles? How do you know? The answer is you don't. And that's okay. But to have such strong conviction in this is nonsensical. Like, how do you know that? If you hire someone who's done it in this role with different and has the precedent there, then okay, you still don't know, but you have a better indication. We have no indication. We have no idea what Aaron Glenn's going to be as a head coach. We have no idea what Darren Mougey is going to be as a general manager. You know why? They've never done it before. They've never done it before. That's not saying they won't be good, but I see people like I have, all these Jets fans that are excited or like, maybe I'm too negative. Maybe I'm just I'm like I was saying in the beginning, I'm kind of biased right now. I have a negative bias with everything Jets. It's just, I've been let down too many times, and this past season was probably the biggest letdown ever. So maybe that's impacting me, but I don't understand how logically anyone can feel strong conviction about these guys and their new roles, considering that you don't know. How could a fan or a media, someone at ESPN, know that Mougie's going to be a good general manager? How do they know how involved he was in each and every decision? How do they know what his process is? They don't. How do you know Aaron Glenn's going to be good head coach? Because he was a defensive coordinator on a good team? He might be a great defensive coordinator. That doesn't make him a great coach. We know that. We've seen that so many times. Even the whole thing about being a great coach, like I was saying early on, is, and a great GM, they might have it in them. Maybe they need some experience. Maybe this is the first stepping stone. They will become later on in their careers really successful. Maybe the Jets will ruin their potential success with the Jets. There's just so much unknown here. I don't know how people have such strong conviction either way. My only strong conviction is I don't know. So anyway, Jets hire Aaron Glenn. Press conference was today. They hired Darren Mougey. The press conference was it was mostly an Aaron Glenn press conference, but they did their press conferences together, even though they were hired separately. Aaron Glenn said that before he was even asked, he said, "I'm going to nip this in the bud. I spoke with Aaron Rodgers. We're making our decision. All player decisions, me and Mougey are going to be discussing. We haven't had that discussions. You haven't had those discussions yet. Haven't made those decisions yet. And then we don't have a timetable, but we're going to take our time." But he said that he talked to Rodgers. As long as they're on the same page, one way or the other, I'm good. If they're not on the same page, or Woody Johnson's influencing the decision, I'm not good. I think there's a pretty good chance. I mean, it's hard to get two guys who weren't hired. The GM didn't hire the coach. The coach didn't decide on the GM, so they very well may not be on the same page. And Woody Johnson likes to meddle. Will he meddle right off the bat? I really hope not. But we'll see. Since we're so on this pod, we're so Eagles based right now as they're going to the Super Bowl. Wanted to take this chance to talk about the New York Knicks. We haven't really talked about the Knicks a lot. The Knicks are having a really good season. Knicks are a good team. They've struggled against some of the better teams. They have. They struggled against the Thunder. They struggled against the Celtics. They've struggled against the Cavs. There's a couple things that are important to note regarding the Knicks. One is Cat and this offense, it works. It's really good. Bridges, really good. OG in this offense, really good. Josh Hart is a maniac out there. Josh Hart's averaging over 9 rebounds per game. He's like towards the top of the league. He's like there with like Jared Allen. like Jared Allen's a 7-footer that's out there to defend the rim and dunk and rebound. And Josh Hart's like right there with rebound numbers. Career high in assists, career high in rebounds, scoring 15 points or 14, 15 points per game. Still doing all the hustle, diving for loose balls, all that stuff. He's a maniac. It works. The starting five is really good. I do have a concern about Cat's thumb. Since injuring that thumb, and he's a bone chip, and he's going to play through it, get surgery after the season, he's like 1 for 10 from 3, now 1 for 11 from 3 maybe. Now, small sample size, could be a coincidence, could be a lack of maybe him just learning how to trust the thumb, play with it, play with like that little whatever's on his finger. I don't know, whatever they call it. It could be that, or it could be a larger issue. If it's a larger issue and he's not going to be able to shoot threes, and not going to be able to shoot the ball well, Knicks don't have a chance to compete for a title. That's up. By making this Cat trade, when they made this Cat trade, they committed to the idea of a 5-out, and that 5-out doesn't work without Cat not only being a threat to shoot threes, but shooting threes, shooting them at a high clip, like he was earlier in the season before the injury. So hopefully it's just like a little phase where he has to just figure it out, get used to it, trust the finger. Hope so. Something to look out for. The depth of this roster has been an issue. It's been talked about, the minutes, and the minutes, like the thing is, the minutes are pretty simple, in my opinion. Now, you could say you disagree with this concept, fine, but this is what it is. The Knicks traded a lot of their depth over the last couple of years. They traded IQ and RJ Barrett for OG, 2-for-1 trade. They traded Devo and Julius Randle for Cat, 2-for-1 trade. That's 4 guys for 2 guys. The Knicks have 7 guys that you trust instead of having 9. Tibbs plays who he trusts. He coaches every game to win. He's not one of these coaches. Obviously, you guys know this. He doesn't say, it's November, it's October, it's January. We're the 3 seed. We're going to be the 3 or the 4. It's okay if we lose this game. That's not Tibbs. Tibbs coaches every game like it's a playoff game. Not literally, but pretty close. So he plays the guys he trusts. And right now, he trusts his 5 starters. And on and off, he trusts Precious Achiuwa here and there, depending on the game. And he trusts Deuce McBride. 7 guys. He doesn't trust Campaign. He doesn't trust Landry Shamet. He doesn't trust Jericho Sims. He doesn't trust Tyler Kolak or Dadier, the rookies. So they're playing mostly 7 guys. Payne plays a few minutes. If he's shooting well, he plays a little bit more. If he doesn't shoot well, he comes out quickly. It's pretty simple here. They're playing big minutes because he only has 7 guys he trusts, and really only 6 guys, because I would even say it's really just Deuce off the bench that he actually trusts. And this team is built with the starting 5 is just so good. So you want him out there. The problem with the minutes, and I think this is like the easiest way to lower the minutes, and the most simplest way to explain why the minutes are so high, is when you have a 25-point lead with 3 minutes left, take your starters out. When you have a 25-point lead with 5 minutes left, take your starters out. When you're up by 30 with 8 minutes left in the game, take your starters out of the game, Tibbs. Like, it's that simple. You could be saving them 4 minutes a game, 5 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes once every 3 games, because the Knicks have had a lot of blowout wins where Jalen Brunson, Cat, Bridges, they're on the floor with a minute and a half left up by 24 points. I mean, what kind of nonsense is that? And you could say like, Tibbs doesn't consider the game over. Okay, well here's the thing: someone should get into his head and say, yeah, the game is over, dude. The game is over, and maybe you had, and you as a coach, you've had an experience where you blew a crazy game. I think like the MSG broadcast was talking about how Tibbs, he saw like the Tracy McGrady, he scored like, I don't know, 17 points in what was it, 2 minutes. Just because something happened one time, let's be bigger than that. Let's understand big picture. Like, yeah, if you take your starters out with 8 minutes left up by 25 points 20 times, maybe one game it ends up coming down to a final possession. Maybe. So, like, that's the biggest area. But also they need depth. So trade deadline's coming up. Knicks need to make a move, maybe a couple moves. It's not gonna be a big move. For anyone that's thinking like big, no. Maybe Mitch comes back and plays them back up 5. That doesn't really fix their depth because basically he would just replace Precious. Maybe then Precious still gets some minutes at the 4. Maybe, but it's not really a significant impact. It's better because Mitch is better than Precious. Mitch gives something the Knicks don't really have. Precious is a pretty good rim protector, but Mitch is taller and Mitch is just bigger. And Precious is pretty good offensive rebounder. Mitch is an elite offensive rebounder. Is he going to come back? He's going to come back and stay healthy? These are questions that I don't know who really knows the answer to. I don't know how you can be confident that he's going to come back and stay healthy and be in good shape. I don't know. Knicks are in a good spot. I do think they're a bench piece away. Whether it's a wing, whether it's a more reliable backup 5, they need more. If they trade Mitch, they need to be bringing in someone who could replace him. It's not just Precious as the backup 5, but you also need to bring in a wing, someone who could at least go out there and defend. It doesn't need to be someone who gets play make. Doesn't even need to be someone who can make threes. Someone who can go in and defend and allow Tibbs to feel okay with Bridges and OG specifically, but Hart as well on the bench for more than 7 minutes a game. Because it's crazy. It's crazy. It really is. And I get it. And I appreciate that Tibbs wants to win every game. As a fan, I want to watch them win every game. So I appreciate that. He needs more guys he could trust. That's the answer. Because I don't expect Tibbs or want Tibbs to change his desire to win every game. I want him to change his desire to keep his starters out on the court in a blowout with 2 minutes left. But that's really my only gripe with him. I think it's about the roster. They need more depth. They need more guys that Tibbs can trust. Maybe Landry Shamet progresses into that. He's shown signs the last couple of games. Knicks need Leon Rose in the front office needs to give Tibbs some more guys he trusts. And that'll be also true in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens at trade deadline. But just wanted to touch base on some New York sports here. We will continue to be putting out Eagles episodes because the Eagles are on the Super Bowl. If you have any topics that you'd like us to get to, you'd like me to get to separately, something like this, message us on Instagram, comment in the here on the video, and please give us, if you like the videos, if you like what we're doing, and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. That's really going to help us out. We're over 720 subscribers now. We've been building this out. We're trying to get to 1,000. So help us get there. And appreciate you checking out the pod. See you next time.
Sports and culture all in one. Catch the fire, feel the fun. And Andrew, sis, that glad unite. Philly and Y in the